Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have something really cool, something that's very exciting. It's always exciting when this day comes because we have a brand new company on the scene. I don't know if you've seen them on eBay or AliExpress or anywhere like that, or specifically on Lana Time Shop because that's where I acquired mine, but there's a brand new company out called TNG, and this company produces very cool prehistoric figures, but not just dinosaurs. They have prehistoric mammals as well, which is super awesome if you ask me. And I'm sure they're going to continue to unload incredible figures on us into the future. But again, I'm very impressed with the initial round of figures that they have released. And one thing that's cool about them that I have found out is actually some pretty familiar sculptors work with them, and one of which is a sculptor for Musi. And you'll see some of the models that are in their line are actually very similar to Musi releases, and in fact the Elasmotherium is almost a clone of the Musi release because the original sculptor of the Musi release is the one who sculpted that figure as well. So again, super exciting to have a new company, and as you can see, we're going to begin with their Spinosaurus. And this Spinosaurus looks really nice overall. I love the coloration that they've chosen for it. Beautiful tones of color that look nice and natural on the dinosaur. It's not super flashy, but still gives it an element of flashiness. Nice pose, as the Spinosaurus to me looks like it's swimming along, so we have somewhat of a swimming pose. It kind of looks like it's swimming, but at the same time, like that one foot seems to be planted, so maybe it's walking. I guess you could, it's kind of posed in a way where you can have it looking like it's walking or have it looking like it's swimming, and it works for both, which is pretty cool. Now, a lot of these figures actually have boxes that they come with. For some reason, my Spinosaurus does not, but it does have a tag here on it, and you can see the TNG logo on it. It also says, "Discover the world, respect the nature," and obviously looks like a leaf. I don't know if there's anything on the inside. Yeah, there's some stuff, but unfortunately I can't read it. And then a little bit more of that here on the back. But the Spinosaurus, again, as a whole, looks really nice, so let's jump to a closer look at it right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Spinosaurus, you can see that the actual texturing, the scale detail, all of that stuff looks really quite nice. It has some beautiful, very vibrant detail to it. I also love the paintwork because even though we have this really nice kind of like a light brown, it does have some elements of greens to it as well. You can also see some very dark kind of like black stripes that move through the face, but it also has kind of like a light wash to the face. There's kind of like a light brown wash or a light tan wash that kind of creeps in and out of all of the scales and the areas of the skin texture to really highlight those areas, which I think looks really good. The striping and everything looks very nice, very smooth as far as the application goes, very realistic paintwork. You've got the nostrils up there. You also have a crest there on the center of the head of the Spinosaurus. You can see a nice darkening of coloration there around the eye. I will say that the head sculpt looks a little off as far as what we would expect to see on a Spinosaurus, but it does still look really cool, just not exactly what I would term scientifically accurate. But I'm also no professional when it comes to dinosaur anatomy, so I'm not 100% positive how far off it would be from what a real Spinosaurus looks like, but definitely looks a little off to me. But as far as the jaw, you can see the jaw is articulated, and it works really nicely. You can see that you can pretty much move it to any area you would like. Very smooth articulated jaw, which is also very exciting for the figure. The inside of the mouth sports some incredibly nice looking detail. You can also see that on top of the pinkish tone, we have an alternate tone in there so that we have some color variation to the inside of the mouth of the Spinosaurus, and the actual detailing of the inside of the mouth is really impressive. You can see it looks super nice, really realistic paintwork on top of really realistic sculpting. We do have the teeth sculpted out, and I like the fact that they've kind of given them a mixture of like browns and then they transition to kind of whites, which I think is also quite realistic, and again just shows the level of commitment that TNG has to giving us a really good, very high quality product when they go ahead and add color variation even to the teeth, and they all look really good. Each tooth sculpted individually. You do have that hook in the jaw for the Spinosaurus like you would like to see, and then when you close the mouth, you can see it closes perfectly. No issues at all as far as that goes. We do have some nicely painted eyes with a yellow and a black, but the eyes actually have a little variation of color. You can really see it on this eye here. You can see there's like some hints of like reddish tones on the eyes as well, which is really cool, again, to have some color variation to the eyes of the figure. As you start to move down the course of the back of the Spinosaurus, you can see a slightly kind of an armored scute-like appearance, along with ridges moving down the back of the Spino. As you move down here into the neck, you can also see again some nice skin wrinkling, some skin creasing, because the Spinosaurus does have its head turned to the right, so it would be wrinkling the skin up and everything over here. But you can also see more of those stripes, as well as more variations of browns. You can see a slightly darker shade of brown that very smoothly transitions to this lighter, almost like a yellowish brown here, before very smoothly transitioning to a light gray here for the underside. You can see that same transition there in the lower jaw when it comes to the brown to the transition there to the light gray. You can also actually see a darker shade of brown running along the jawline, which I didn't notice just a moment ago. They've also done a very good job when it comes to highlighting the detail here on the underside as far as the scale detail goes, because they have a darker gray underneath the lighter gray that creeps in and out of all of the scales as well, just to make sure that it has even more really nice paintwork in that area. Again, as you move down the course of the neck, you see those beautiful stripes moving down. As you lead down here to the bottom of the neck, you can see again a cluster of skin wrinkles and stuff here showing that turning motion of the neck of the Spinosaurus. You can also actually see some osteoderms moving down the course of the side of the neck as well. And as you move down here into the body, you can kind of make out the shoulder blade a little bit. You've got more of those osteoderms running there right under the sail. You have some nice muscle definition here in the arm as you move down. They've also applied some nice shading here with some more stripes in the musculature and everything. And you have some slight scoots moving down the course of the arm into the fingers. The fingers also look really quite nice. The nails are painted with a light gray, but I love that they darken the nails closer to the hand, and then it very smoothly transitions out to that lighter gray, which really does look quite nice. As you move back up here into the body, you can again see nice variations of browns. Like you can just see slightly different appearances to the browns here compared to here. So they've done a very good job of applying the paintwork, in my opinion, in a really realistic way. You can continue to see how they have that kind of lighter wash showing up here and there on the figure. There's also some more kind of spots and stripes and stuff here with that blackish tone. And again, a really smooth transition moving down to that light gray, which you can see showing up here in the side of the stomach of the Spinosaurus. You've got a few more skin wrinkles and stuff here before the leg is pushing into the stomach there. You can see the skin wrinkles kind of bunching up right there. And the skin texture again looks really quite nice. As you move up here into the sail, the detailing again of the sail looks beautiful, just like it does throughout the course of the Spinosaurus. I love that they have this darker tone that kind of runs over the top of the sail of the Spinosaurus. Then we get this really beautiful looking variation of a lighter brown. You can see it on the upper and lower side of the sail, but then it lightens really nicely here in the center, and we continue to have those kind of black spots and stuff throughout, which just gives it a super nice, very appealing appearance, and also again a hint of flashiness in the area where you would usually expect to have some flashiness on a Spinosaurus, but without being super flashy. Like they didn't give it any kind of crazy, ridiculous tones of color that just make it really bright and crazy looking. Like it just looks really natural overall. As you move down here, you again have the hip bone very nicely sculpted out. You can see some scoots moving over, or osteoderms moving over the top of the hip as well. You move down into the thigh, you can see the muscle definition is nicely displayed. We have a few more stripes, pretty subtle looking stripes right there. Really nice looking skin texture as well. As you move down here into the calf, you can see the calf as well is quite nicely highlighted as far as the muscle definition goes. Very nice looking foot sculpt here. You can see again beautiful elegant curves to the foot as it's either swimming or just taking a step. Nice scoots down the toes as well. And the nails are painted similar to what we see up there on the fingers, but you can see this nail has more of like a grayish color. This nail actually has more of a brownish color. And that one over there also has the brownish tone. So they have given us a little bit of difference as far as the coloration goes, which is pretty cool. And you can see there are dew claws present on the Spinosaurus as well. As you lead back up here into the tail, we lead out into the tail itself. You can see some more really nice looking scale detail, some more ridges running along the back, and I like how there's like varying sizes of those ridges. It's not just one uniform appearance. They have a good bit of difference to them, which looks really nice. And you continue to have more striping moving out the length of the tail just to give it that really nice flashy appearance as you move out. Of course, we have a very paddle-like tail for the Spinosaurus, like we often see on more recent reconstructions of the Spino. You can also see here on the underside, again, we have that really nice light gray, and then again, the variations of beautiful browns up here. Really beautiful curve to the tail as well, even a slight tilt to the tail of the Spino as it's either swimming or walking along. And one thing I did notice here as we move along the underside, you can see the cloaca is present for the Spinosaurus as well, but there's actually some really slight hints of pinkish tones here on the underside. You could see it under the arms, you could see it under the legs and everything in the groin area. I really like that because it's just something that I would expect to see potentially on a dinosaur, and it's just something that I think stands out as just another really nice addition to the paintwork that adds up to a very realistic paint job for the model. And then if we turn it around and we take a look over here, you can again see the head sculpt looks really nice over here. The eye placement is okay. It might be slightly too far back, but for the most part, it looks pretty good. One thing I think TNG could benefit from in the future would be maybe adding in a little bit of a stronger gloss coat. Like for the eyes, you can see it's a little glossy, but not super obvious. The inside of the mouth as well has a slight shine to it, but I just feel like it would look a little bit better if it was a little bit more wet as far as the appearance goes, but it still looks pretty good for what it is. You know, the paintwork of this is actually incredibly well done. Very precise, very, very nice looking paintwork. As you move down, you can see some more skin wrinkles and stuff. Again, the skin stretching with the Spinosaurus having its head turned to the right. As you continue to move down here, you can see this arm really does look like it's swimming because now it's kind of pushing back. But one downside you can see to the figure is the fact that the wrist is pronated, which is not what we would actually see on a Spinosaurus. So you can definitely see that aspect. As far as this wrist here, it looks like it's correct, but this wrist for some reason is pronated, and I don't believe Spinosaurus could actually do that. As you move back up, though, you can see again more variations of browns. You can see more of that grayish tone here in the stomach region. You can also see the legs stretching the skin off of the stomach very nicely, again, because it has that sort of swimming look to it. You can see the palm of the hand over here on this side. The nails, again, are painted just like we saw on the initial side where they have that light gray, and then they darken as you get closer to the fingers. I also love that I can actually see some slight variations of browns, and I'm actually noticing that over here now as well, something I didn't really pick up on earlier. There's even some yellowish browns here on the underside of the foot of the Spinosaurus. And then as you move back, you can again see the muscle definition, the hip bone, everything present on this foot, just like we saw on the initial side. And then again, we lead out into that really beautiful curved tail for our Spinosaurus. Again, a good look here at the sail and how nice that looks. But as a whole, this is definitely a really, really nice Spinosaurus. I absolutely love this Spino, and it's a really nice convenient size where it's not massive, but it's by no means too small. The only real downside that I pick out personally from the figure is the fact that this wrist is pronated. Other than that, you know, I think it looks really good. Again, like I said earlier, I don't know how perfectly accurate the head sculpt is because it just looks a little off to me, but as a whole, I definitely think it's a beautiful Spinosaurus. Another good thing about the Spino is it has absolutely no balancing issues. It stays standing very, very nicely. No balancing problems at all. As far as the size goes, for a length, you are looking at about 12.25 inches or around 32 centimeters roughly. And then the highest point would be the sail. You are looking at about 4.5 inches or right under 12 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our TNG Spinosaurus. And you can definitely see it sports a pretty good size to it. It's not massive, but it's definitely quite sizable overall. I would say it's like a smaller large figure, like bordering on medium large as far as that size range would go, in my opinion. But again, it's a really nice size. It's a very convenient size. It's not anything too huge that's going to just take up way too much room in your collection. Definitely a very good convenient size. And here is a comparison, and I figured I would go straight to the comparison that most people would probably want to see. But we have a comparison with the PNSO Spinosaurus. Now, what's interesting about this is I've actually heard quite a few people claim that they think that the TNG Spinosaurus might be derived somehow from the PNSO version, like maybe it's a bootleg or something like that, and that couldn't be further from the truth. If you actually look at the two Spinosaurus, they are almost nothing alike. Everything about them is just severely different, even down to the shape of the crest on the head, the entire head shape as a whole. There's ridges running down the neck of the TNG version. We don't have that on the PNSO version. Even the shape of the sail is different. The texturing to the sail is different. The positioning of the legs are all different. The positioning of the tail is very different. Literally everything about these Spinosaurus is very, very different from each other. So I can put that assumption straight to rest. There is definitely no similarities here between the PNSO and TNG Spinosaurus, aside from the fact that they are both Spinosaurus. But also, if you happen to have the PNSO version, you can definitely see again that the PNSO version is a bit smaller than the TNG version overall. And just to further show you again the differences between these two Spinosaurus, I decided to turn the TNG version to the positioning that the PNSO version is facing, just to show you again that they're very different. The leg is leaning back on this side. On the TNG version, it's taking a step forward. On the PNSO version, the opposing leg is entirely different as far as the positioning goes. This leg, even if you had flip-flopped them somehow, is entirely different from the positioning of the opposing leg. The arm is entirely different as well. The only close to a similarity that you could see here as far as the sculpt goes to the PNSO version is the fact that the right arm kind of curls under, but the PNSO version has a way stronger curve. It's also positioned down on the ground, whereas the TNG version is up off of the ground. It's just generally very, very different overall. The heads are turned in different positions. The tails are also sort of, kind of, slightly facing a similar position, but also very different at the same time, because if you look at the PNSO version and the TNG version, there is a much stronger curve to the PNSO version, and there's also a slight tilt, more so I think, to the TNG version than what we see on the PNSO version. So again, even though they are both Spinosaurus, they are vastly different from each other. Now for another comparison, we have the TNG Spinosaurus along with the GR Toys version of the Spinosaurus here. And you can see that they have a very, very different size entirely. You can see the GR Toys version is much larger than our TNG version, but looking at the two, it's really tough to actually choose one over the other. But I might actually go with the TNG version. I actually think I might like the TNG version a little bit more than the GR Toys version. Both are beautiful, that's for sure. I really do love the GR Toys Spinosaurus, especially the alternate paint variant. I pulled this one out, but I actually prefer the alternate paint variant of the Spino. But the new TNG version, honestly, is just as impressive, just as beautiful, maybe even, again, a little bit more, in my opinion. Not everyone's going to share that opinion compared to the GR Toys version. But if you happen to have the GR Toys Spinosaurus, you'll definitely see a strong difference in size. And then for another comparison, if you happen to have the older PNSO Spinosaurus, you can definitely see again a massive size difference, but the older PNSO Spino is just gigantic. I would love to see them produce a newer Spinosaurus with their newer sculpt and newer paint job that's similar in size to this one. That would definitely be really cool. But again, another figure I wanted to bring in just in case you have the older one for a comparison. And then just in case you only have the older Papo Spinosaurus, here is a comparison with that Spinosaurus as well. Two very, very different interpretations of Spinosaurus, I can definitely tell you that. There is the Safari LTD version of the Spinosaurus next to the TNG version, and if we put them in front of each other, you can definitely get a good idea of the fact that the TNG version is, of course, much larger than the Safari LTD version. But for one more comparison, we've also got the Collect Day Deluxe Spinosaurus next to the TNG version, just to iron out one final comparison. If you happen to have the Collect Day one, then hopefully that will help give you an idea of the size of the TNG version. So this brand new TNG Spinosaurus is definitely a really cool figure and a great start for the TNG line. I have some pretty high hopes for them at this point now. After seeing their first few figures and having them here in hand, having a chance to really look over them, I definitely think that they have some major potential to create some of the best prehistoric figures that we have ever seen moving into the future. And again, I figured it would be a great way to kind of grab everyone's attention with their Spinosaurus, because as a whole, it's a really nice, really appealing looking figure. The sculpt is very highly detailed, definitely some of the nicest detailing I've seen on a model in a long time, and as a whole, it sports every ounce of detail you would like to see on a model. All the skin folds, skin wrinkles, all the movement shown beautifully, the muscle definition. Really, really nice, very highly detailed sculpt overall. It also has a nice pose where you can kind of interpret it as walking or swimming. I mean, that's really up to you. And it looks good in both of those mindsets. So they definitely did a very good job as far as choosing a sculpt and a position to the sculpt where you can basically have the best of both worlds, whether you want your Spino swimming or you want it to be just kind of walking along, it really does work for both. We also, of course, have that newer updated look for Spinosaurus with the paddle-like tail and that very cool looking sail. I think everything as far as that goes looks great. I also love the elegance of that paddle-like tail with the nice curve to the tail. It looks really, really good. The color scheme that they've chosen for it is also very nice and naturalistic overall. It's very smooth as far as the application goes. The transitions between colors are really nicely done. They've done a phenomenal job of adding in a lot of really slight color difference to give it a very realistic and lifelike look, and they've done a very good job of adding in things like washes and stuff like that to highlight the detail in a realistic way. None of the washes are too strong, too intense. They're all very subtle washes that just add really nice minor additions to the model to amp up the realism of the paint job, and I definitely think as a whole the paint job is just as impressive as the sculpt. And there really isn't much that I can even bring up that would be downsides for the figure. The only thing that maybe could be perceived as a potential downside is the positioning of the wrist of the left arm, because it appears to be pronated to me, which that definitely isn't something we believe Spinosaurus was capable of, would be pronating its wrists. So that again is just a little bit of a downside to the figure, and I'm not positive how accurate the head sculpt is. It just seems short to me. I'm not sure if it really is. Maybe it's just my eyes playing tricks on me, but outside of that, again, I can't really pick up on anything that is a downside for the figure as far as the sculpt goes. Again, I'm no paleontologist, but it looks good to me as a whole. So if you are interested in picking up this absolutely gorgeous Spinosaurus, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that on Lana Time Shop's AliExpress store, actually, because that's where I snagged this one from. So I will include a link to the AliExpress store of Lana Time Shop this time, so you can go grab yourself this Spinosaurus and add it to your collection right away. So make sure you do that. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.